Welcome to my channel, where today we are talking all about the Washington quarter dollar coins, some of the most collected and valuable coins in American history. Many people think these quarters are just ordinary pocket change, but the truth is that certain Washington quarters are worth far more than 25 cents. In this video, I'll explain the history, the key dates, the rare mint marks, and the valuable era coins that can turn a simple quarter into a collector's treasure. That's why you should stay with me until the very end, because I'll be revealing which Washington quarters are worth serious money and why these coins are in such high demand. If you want to know the real value of your Washington quarter dollar coins, make sure you don't click away, because every detail in this video could help you discover a rare and valuable coin in your collection. First up, the most valuable 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin without a mint mark. The 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin is one of the most interesting and important coins in American history, and many collectors today are searching for this coin because of its unique background, its design, its role in the history of U.S. coinage, and, of course, its collectible value. If you have a 1966 Washington quarter, you may not realize just how important and valuable this coin can be. That is why it is so important to stay with me all the way through this video, because I am going to explain why the 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin is so popular, why it is different from other quarters, what makes it collectible, and what details you should look for that could make your 1966 quarter worth far more than just 25 cents. The 1966 Washington quarter came at a time of major change in U.S. coinage. Prior to 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver, but beginning in 1965, the U.S. Mint made the switch to a copper-nickel clad composition because of the rising cost of silver and the shortage of silver bullion. This means that the 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin, just like the 1965 quarter, was struck without any silver content. Instead, it was made of an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change was huge because it marked the end of an era of silver coinage and the beginning of the modern clad coinage system that is still in use today. Collectors know that the 1966 quarter is one of the very first non-silver Washington quarters, and that fact alone makes it historically significant. Another important point about the 1966 Washington quarter is that during this time, the United States Mint suspended the use of mint marks. From 1965 through 1967, no quarters or other coins carried a mint mark, regardless of whether they were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, or the San Francisco Mint. This was done to discourage coin hoarding, which had become a major issue when people realized that silver coins were disappearing from circulation. Because of this, every 1966 Washington quarter you find will not have a mint mark. That makes identifying the mint location impossible, but it also gives the coin a unique place in the history of American coinage. The mintage of the 1966 Washington quarter was very large. Hundreds of millions were struck, and these coins entered circulation all across the country. However, just because there were many produced does not mean all of them are the same. Some 1966 quarters today remain in uncirculated condition. Some can be found in special mint sets, and a few rare examples exist with striking errors and varieties that make them very valuable. That is why if you have a 1966 Washington quarter, it is worth learning what details can set your coin apart. When we talk about value, we have to consider condition. Most circulated 1966 Washington quarters are worth face value, 25 cents, but collectors will pay more for higher quality examples. An uncirculated 1966 quarter can sell for several dollars, and depending on condition and eye appeal, prices can climb even higher. Special mint set versions of the 1966 Washington quarter are also collected, and coins with strong strikes and attractive surfaces can bring in much more than face value. But what really excites collectors are the era coins. Some known errors for the 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin include double die obverse, off-center strikes, clip planchets, and other striking mistakes. A double die error can show doubling on the lettering, the motto, or the date, and collectors pay strong premiums for those coins. Off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the coin, are also very collectible, and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. Clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin is missing because of a miscut blank, can also bring in much more than the usual value. These types of error coins are highly sought after by collectors, and if you have a 1966 Washington quarter with an error, it could be worth far more than you imagine. The design of the Washington quarter in 1966 continued the classic look first introduced in 1932. The obverse features a portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, with the word Liberty above his head, the motto "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date below. The reverse design shows an eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches below, symbolizing strength and peace. This design was used on the quarter for many years, and it has become one of the most recognizable coin designs in U.S. history. Collectors value the 1966 Washington quarter not only for its history, but also for this classic and iconic design. Now let's take a closer look at why the 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin is valuable. Even though it does not contain silver, its historical importance, its role in the transition away from silver coinage, its lack of a mint mark, and the errors and varieties all contribute to its collectible value. Many collectors try to build complete sets of Washington quarters, and the 1966 coin is essential to completing the set. This constant demand means that there will always be interest in 1966 quarters, especially in high grade or with errors. If you find a 1966 Washington quarter in your change, you may think it's just another ordinary coin, but it is worth checking closely. Look at the lettering, the motto, the date, and the overall condition. If you notice doubling, off-center features, or an unusual planchet flaw, your coin could be valuable. Even without errors, a sharp and lustrous uncirculated coin from 1966 can sell to collectors for much more than face value. Special mint set coins, which were sold directly to collectors in 1966, are also worth holding on to, because they tend to be of higher quality and are often more desirable than circulation strikes. The story of the 1966 Washington quarter is really the story of American coinage in the mid-1960s, a time when silver was disappearing, hoarding was widespread, and the mint was forced to adapt quickly. This coin captures that moment in history, and even today, decades later, collectors treasure the 1966 quarter because of its role in that story. So when you look at a 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin, don't dismiss it as just another quarter. Remember that this coin represents an important turning point in U.S. history. Remember that there are valuable varieties and heirs waiting to be discovered. Remember that condition can dramatically affect the value. And remember that even though millions were struck, only a small number survive in pristine condition or with dramatic minting mistakes. That is why the 1966 Washington quarter dollar coin is so valuable and why you should always check your change, your coin jars, and your old collections. The coin sitting in your pocket or your collection right now might just be a hidden treasure. Next up, the super rare 1973 Washington quarter dollar coin without a mint mark. The 1972 Washington quarter dollar coin is one of those pieces of American coinage that might look ordinary at first glance. But once you understand the details, the history, and the potential value, you will realize that this coin is far more than just a 25-cent piece. Collectors all over the world seek out the 1972 Washington quarter because of its history, its design, and the chance that certain examples can be quite valuable. If you have a 1972 quarter in your pocket change or collection, you should pay very close attention, because this coin is definitely worth knowing about. The story of the 1972 Washington quarter begins with its place in the long-running Washington quarter series. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. The design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, featured a profile portrait of George Washington on the obverse with the word Liberty above, the motto "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date below. The reverse of the coin showed an eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath, representing both strength and peace. This design became iconic and lasted for decades. The 1972 Washington quarter carries that very same design, which makes it both familiar and important to collectors who appreciate the continuity of U.S. coinage history. Now, When we talk about the 1972 Washington quarter, it's important to understand the composition. By 1972, quarters were no longer struck in silver for circulation. The transition away from silver had begun in 1965, and the 1972 quarter was made of copper-nickel clad, with an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change marked a permanent shift in American coinage, and by 1972, the copper-nickel clad Washington quarter was the standard. While this means the 1972 quarter does not contain silver like earlier pre-1965 quarters, it still holds significant historical value as part of this modern era of U.S. coinage. Mint marks play an important role in understanding the 1972 Washington quarter. In 1972, quarters were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Quarters struck at the Philadelphia Mint carried no mint mark, while those from Denver carried a D mint mark, and coins from San Francisco carried an S mint mark. However, the San Francisco coins of 1972 were produced specifically for proof sets, and those coins are of higher quality with mirror-like surfaces, making them especially desirable for collectors. Because of this, when examining your 1972 Washington quarter, it is crucial to check for a mint mark, since mint marks often influence both rarity and value. When we consider the mintage numbers, the 1972 Washington quarter was produced in very large quantities, with hundreds of millions struck across the Philadelphia and Denver mints. This means that most circulated examples are common, but as every experienced collector knows, condition is everything. Circulated coins are usually worth face value, but coins in uncirculated condition, with bright luster and no wear, can bring in higher prices. A 1972 quarter in mint state condition can be worth several dollars or more, and the better the grade, the more collectors are willing to pay. But the real excitement for many collectors comes from errors and varieties. The 1972 Washington quarter is known to exist with some striking errors that make it far more valuable than ordinary examples. Some errors include double-die varieties, where doubling can be seen on the obverse lettering, the motto, or the date. These double-die quarters are highly collectible and can command strong premiums. Other errors include off-center strikes, clip planchets, broad strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine finding a 1972 Washington quarter struck on a dime planchet or nickel planchet. These rare mint errors can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on how dramatic the error is and how well it is preserved. The San Francisco Mint also produced proof versions of the 1972 Washington quarter, and these proof coins are especially valuable to collectors. A proof coin is made with specially polished dies and struck multiple times to bring out sharp details and mirror-like surfaces. The 1972 S-proof quarter is beautiful and collectible, and depending on the condition, it can be worth more than its face value. Cameo and deep cameo examples, which show strong contrast between the frosted design and the mirror fields, are the most desirable and can sell for significantly higher prices. Another factor that makes the 1972 Washington quarter valuable is its role in building complete sets. Many collectors strive to collect a complete date and mint mark set of Washington quarters, and the 1972 coin is an essential part of that collection. Whether it is the Philadelphia no mint mark quarter, the Denver D quarter, or the San Francisco S-proof quarter, each plays an important role in completing a full series set. This constant demand from set builders ensures that there will always be interest in the 1972 Washington quarter. When looking at the value of the 1972 quarter, it's important to remember that even though hundreds of millions were struck, only a small fraction remain in top condition. Coins that have never been circulated, that show no wear, and that have sharp details are the ones that collectors will pay premiums for. High-grade examples certified in mint state grades can bring in significant prices, especially those with exceptional luster or unique toning. And as mentioned, error coins and proof coins can be far more valuable. So if you come across a 1972 Washington quarter, don't assume it's just an ordinary coin worth 25 cents. Take a closer look at the date, the mint mark, the surfaces, and any unusual features. You may discover that your 1972 quarter has collectible value far beyond its face value. Always check for errors like doubling or off-center strikes, because those are the coins that turn a common quarter into a treasure. The 1972 Washington quarter is valuable not only for its potential collector's worth, but also for what it represents in American coinage history. It reflects the post-silver era, the growth of modern clad coinage, and the ongoing demand for Washington quarters among collectors. Whether you have a Philadelphia no mint mark coin, a Denver D quarter, or a San Francisco S proof, each one tells part of the story of U.S. coinage in the early 1970s. Collectors around the world continue to seek out the 1972 Washington quarter because of its design, its varieties, and its place in history. And for anyone who enjoys the hobby of coin collecting, this coin is a reminder that even modern quarters can hold value, interest, and collectible appeal. So the next time you see a 1972 Washington quarter dollar coin, remember that it is not just an ordinary piece of pocket change. It is a coin with history, with design significance, with collectible varieties, and with potential value. Your 1972 Washington quarter could be worth more than you think, and that's why collectors continue to pay attention to this coin year after year. Next up, the 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin with P mint mark. The 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin with the P mint mark is one of those coins that many people overlook in their pocket change, but collectors know that this quarter is far more important than most people realize. The 1985 Washington quarter with the P mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and while hundreds of millions were produced, certain factors make this coin valuable today. If you have one of these coins, or if you have ever wondered about the 1985 Washington quarter dollar, you should stay with me until the very end of this video, because we're going to uncover why this coin matters, what makes it collectible, and how even an ordinary-looking 1985 quarter can turn into something worth much more than 25 cents. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932, designed by John Flanagan, to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design shows Washington's profile on the obverse with the word Liberty above, the motto "In God We Trust" to the side, and the date at the bottom. The reverse features the eagle with wings spread, standing on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. This design had already been in use for more than 50 years by 1985, and it continued to be an American classic. When you hold a 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin, you are holding a piece of that long-running history. The P mint mark on the 1985 quarter indicates it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Before 1980, Philadelphia did not use a mint mark on most denominations, but beginning that year, the P mint mark began appearing on quarters. This means the 1985 Washington quarter with P mint mark is part of the relatively early period when Philadelphia coins carried a mint mark, making it more interesting to collectors who track changes in minting history. The composition of the 1985 Washington quarter is copper-nickel clad, with an outer layer of copper-nickel alloy bonded to a core of pure copper. By this time, all U.S. circulating quarters had been made without silver for 20 years, since the silver was removed after 1964. But even though it contains no silver, the 1985 Washington quarter with P mint mark still has collectible value because of condition, scarcity of high-grade examples, and rare mint errors. Let's talk about mintage numbers. In 1985, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters. With such a large mintage, you may think that this coin is extremely common and not worth collecting. But condition is everything. While circulated examples are worth face value, collectors pay premiums for uncirculated coins, especially coins that grade at the higher levels. A 1985 Washington quarter with P mint mark in mint state condition can sell for several dollars, and if it is exceptionally well struck with full details, it can bring in even more. Some of the highest graded examples have sold for strong prices at auctions, because collectors are always looking for the very best preserved coins for their collections. But what makes the 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin even more exciting are the error coins and varieties. Some examples from this year show double dies, where doubling can be seen on the lettering, the motto, or the date. These double die coins are extremely collectible and can be worth many times more than face value. Off-center strikes are another type of error where the design is not properly centered on the coin. The more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable the coin becomes. Other errors include clip planchets, broad strikes, and even coins struck on the wrong planchet, such as a quarter design struck on a dime or a nickel planchet. These types of rare mint errors are always valuable and highly sought after. Another important point to remember about the 1985 Washington quarter with P mint mark is that collectors often need this coin to complete their date and mint mark sets. When collectors build complete collections, they must include the 1985 quarter from Philadelphia, along with the 1985 D quarter from Denver, and the proof version from San Francisco. This constant demand ensures that there will always be interest in this coin, especially in top condition or with collectible varieties. The design itself is worth appreciating. By 1985, the Washington quarter had become a familiar coin in circulation, but for collectors, it remained a symbol of classic American coinage. The portrait of George Washington on the obverse is sharp and dignified, and the eagle on the reverse stands as a symbol of strength and freedom. The 1985 quarter connects us back to the roots of the Washington quarter series and to over half a century of history. Value is what draws so many collectors to the 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin with P mint mark. In circulated condition, most examples are only worth face value, but when you find one in uncirculated condition, with no wear and strong luster, it becomes far more collectible. High-grade examples can be worth much more than their face value, and rare errors or varieties can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a simple 1985 quarter in your change and realizing it is actually a valuable error coin. That is why collectors pay close attention to coins like this. The 1985 Washington quarter with P mint mark may not be silver, but it is still valuable because of its history, its role in the series, its collectible errors, and the importance it has for set builders. It represents a time when the Washington quarter was continuing its long run, just before the state quarter program that would arrive in 1999 and forever change the way people looked at quarters. The 1985 coin sits in that transitional period when quarters were still the traditional eagle reverse design, making it nostalgic and desirable for many collectors. So the next time you see a 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin with P mint mark, don't just think of it as an ordinary quarter worth 25 cents. Look carefully at the details. Check the mint mark. Study the condition. Search for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or planchet errors. Because this coin, which so many people overlook, could actually be worth much more than you expect. Collectors all over the world value the 1985 Washington quarter because of its role in history, its potential for rare errors, and its importance in completing collections. This is why the 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin with P mint mark is valuable. It is a coin with history, with design, with varieties, and with collector demand. It may be a modern quarter, but it holds significance in the story of American coinage, and that is why it deserves a place in any serious coin collection. Now, we'll explore the legendary 1967 Washington quarter dollar coin without a mint mark. The 1967 Washington quarter dollar coin is one of the most fascinating pieces of American coinage from the 1960s, and it is a coin that every collector and even the average person should pay attention to. At first glance, the 1967 quarter may look like just another ordinary coin that you might find in your pocket change. But once you learn the history, the design, the errors, and the collector demand for this coin, you begin to realize why the 1967 Washington quarter is valuable. If you have one of these coins, you should never overlook it because it could be worth more than just 25 cents. The story of the 1967 Washington quarter begins with a very important time in U.S. coinage history. Up until 1964, quarters were struck in 90% silver. But beginning in 1965, because of the rising price of silver and widespread coin hoarding, the United States Mint changed the composition of the quarter to a copper-nickel-clad coin with a pure copper core. The 1967 Washington quarter was only the third year of this new clad coinage, and that makes it historically significant. Collectors know that these transitional years of the mid-1960s are very important in understanding modern U.S. coinage, and the 1967 quarter is right in the center of this change. Another interesting fact about the 1967 Washington quarter is that it does not carry any mint mark. From 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint made the decision to remove all mint marks from coins. This was done because people were hoarding coins from certain mints, and the mint wanted to discourage this behavior. As a result, all 1967 Washington quarters look the same, with no mint mark on them, whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This makes the 1967 quarter unique in the series, because most other years allow collectors to search for mint mark varieties. But for 1967, every single coin has no mint mark. The 1967 Washington quarter was produced in very large quantities, with hundreds of millions struck. This means that in circulated condition, most examples are very common and are worth only face value. But collectors know that condition is everything. An ordinary circulated coin may not sell for much, but when you find a 1967 quarter in pristine uncirculated condition, with full details, bright luster, and no wear, it becomes much more desirable. Uncirculated coins are collected heavily, and they can sell for several dollars or more depending on the grade. The highest graded examples, with nearly perfect surfaces, can be worth even more. Another reason the 1967 Washington quarter is valuable is because of its errors and varieties. Error coins from 1967 are extremely collectible, and some of them can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Known errors include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the coin. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also clip planchets, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a mistake in cutting the blanks. Some 1967 quarters show broad strikes, which occur when the coin is struck without the collar that normally keeps it in shape, creating an expanded coin. And then there are double die varieties, where doubling can be seen on the lettering, the motto, or even the date. These double die quarters are very collectible, and if you have one, it could be worth much more than a regular coin. Another type of collectible coin, from 1967, is the special mint set version. During the mid-1960s, instead of producing traditional proof sets, the U.S. Mint produced special mint sets, often called SMS coins. In 1967, the Mint continued this program, and special mint set quarters were struck with higher quality than circulation coins. These coins often show sharper details and smoother surfaces, and collectors pay premiums for them. Some 1967 special mint set quarters even show cameo or deep cameo contrast, where the frosted design stands out against mirrored fields. These cameo coins are especially desirable and can be quite valuable. The design of the 1967 Washington quarter follows the classic John Flanagan design first used in 1932. The obverse shows George Washington's portrait with Liberty above, "In God We Trust" to the side, and the date at the bottom. The reverse shows the eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, a design that symbolizes both strength and peace. By 1967, this design had already been used for 35 years, and it remained the face of the quarter until the state quarters program began in 1999. Collectors treasure this design, and the 1967 quarter is an important example from this long-running era. Now, let's focus again on why the 1967 Washington quarter-dollar coin is valuable. Even though it does not contain silver, its importance comes from its historical role in the transition away from silver, its unusual lack of mint marks, the wide range of collectible mint errors, and the higher quality special mint set coins. These factors make the 1967 quarter much more than just an ordinary piece of change. For collectors, building a complete set of Washington quarters means including the 1967 coin. And because there are no mint mark varieties for this year, the challenge lies in finding the best examples in top condition, or finding one of the rare errors or SMS cameo coins. This demand keeps interest in the 1967 Washington quarter high, and that demand translates into value. If you have a 1967 quarter, you should always take the time to examine it carefully. Look closely at the details of the date and lettering to check for double dies. Look at the edges to see if there are any signs of clip planchets. Check if the coin has unusual characteristics like being struck off-center or on the wrong planchet. These details can make the difference between an ordinary coin and one worth a significant amount of money. And if you have a special mint set quarter from 1967, examine it for cameo contrast, because cameo coins are especially valuable. The 1967 Washington quarter is a coin that represents a turning point in U.S. history. It reflects the changes in coinage composition, the mint's efforts to reduce hoarding, and the adaptation of the coinage system during a time of transition. Collectors value this coin because of what it represents historically, and because of the potential hidden value that certain examples carry. So the next time you see a 1967 Washington quarter dollar coin, don't dismiss it as just an ordinary quarter. Remember that this coin has history, it has unique features, and it has value. Whether it is an uncirculated coin, a special mint set piece, or a rare variety, the 1967 quarter is worth paying attention to. Collectors will always treasure it. And if you take the time to examine yours, you might discover that your coin is more valuable than you ever imagined. This is why the 1967 Washington quarter dollar coin is valuable. It is not just a piece of pocket change. It is a part of American history, a collector's item, and potentially a hidden treasure. As you stayed with me until the very end, now you know that all of these coins are valuable, each with its own history, unique details, rare errors, and collector demand that makes them worth far more than just their face value. Whether it is a Washington quarter dollar, a Lincoln cent, a Roosevelt dime, a Kennedy half dollar, or any other collectible coin, the truth is that hidden treasures can be found in pocket change, in old collections, or even in jars of coins at home. These coins are valuable not only for their potential price, but also for the history and story they carry. That is why collectors all over the world continue searching for them every single day. Make sure you always check your coins carefully, because the next one you find could be a rare variety or error that turns out to be worth far more than you ever expected. Stay with me on this journey of discovering valuable coins, because the more you learn, the better chance you have of spotting real treasures.